he was always kind of making noises all the time, but they weren't like anything that was communicating that I could tell. Wasn't anything that I could tell that he was doing, but he'd make noises, he'd hum, and then he started doing more ekalela stuff where he would repeat things that I did, but like I would say, what did you do? What did you do? And he would start, and so he'd start humming stuff. And so when he started talking, it wasn't as like profound as some people may think, but it was extremely exciting once I figured out, oh my gosh, he just talked. But his first thing that he said was, what did you do? So he started talking, but he had to have control of his environment. He would act out, he would make noises, he had to have all eyes on him to control his environment, to feel secure. So if ever we were out with the family or out in public, he would, act up. This continued into, he's speaking very well now. He still had to control his environment. And I say he's the biggest flirt because super smart. Oh my gosh, listen to this, you guys. He would go up to young, like teenagers, 20-year-olds, and he'd go, your eyes are so beautiful. They're the color of my shirt, and they would go, oh my gosh, you're so adorable. And he was controlling his response. So that's so brilliant. He has such game, girls. Okay. But if he went up to a mom and said that, I love your earrings. They're so sparkly. Look, they match my shoes. My shoes light up. She would turn to me and she would go, he is so adorable. And he didn't get that, what he was expecting. So he stopped talking to moms. And he only talked to young girls. Blondes were his favorite at the time. So he would tell me he loved me all the time. And it's like would break my heart because he was telling me this. I'm sure he loved me. Let's just get that straight. I know he loved me, but I never really saw it. When he was younger and he started talking and he had to control his environment. Even in our playroom, he would come up to me and he'd say, I love you. And I'd go, I love you. And he'd run off and play. 20 minutes later, he'd come back and he goes, I love you. And I go, I love you. And that went on for a long time. And at the end of the day, I was crying, There's moms out there, there's parents out there that would just give anything to hear their kids talk. And here my child's talking, and he's telling me he loves me, and it's not what you think it was going to be. For me, I knew what he was doing, and I just was like, break my heart. When I went to the Sunrise program, which was another one of our therapies we did the Sunrise program, and we did the brain balance, and those were the two main therapies we did. The first one was Sunrise. I went there for the weekend. There was a parent weekend. And we were in a group probably about this size. And we went around the room as families and said what our children do that are really difficult, like their STEMs, their self-motivating things that they do. And all the moms, all of them, all their kids were nonverbal. And they would do things that were very frustrating, upset, and they were like, I just wish he would look at me, And it came to me, and I told Bryn, the lady who was running it, I said, I can't say what he does. And she's like, oh, we're all here for you. We're all here for you. You can tell me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I can't tell you what he's doing. And she's like, okay, tell me in my ear. And I told her that he said he loved me every 20 minutes. And I said, I can't tell these women that he says that. And she grabbed my hand and she's like, everybody, like I was like mortified. Everybody, Melissa's child is high functioning. It's the first time I ever heard that term. ever. What the heck was that? I never heard that. He can talk. He tells her he loves her every 20 minutes. And I was like, oh. And they were fine with it. They understood. I was so surprised. And I had a partner that worked with me, and we had to, one of our activities for that weekend is we had to imitate our child, and then the other person had to try to stop them. So the girl I was with, her child rubbed her gums all the time, and she was getting ready to lose her teeth because she would take her knuckle and rub her gums. And I had to try to pull her hand away and don't do that, because that's what you do. That's what you do when you're, don't do that. And how that felt. We were trying to feel what our kids feel. I was like, I don't know what to do. I love you. You have beautiful eyes. I love your glasses. Look at my shoes. Look at that necklace. I love your necklace. And I was like, she was like, teacher, we have an issue here. Because she did not know how to stop me. He's brilliant. He chose something that nobody wants to stop. Right? It's brilliant. Oh my gosh, I love my child. Love him. But that was difficult because we were approaching kindergarten. And my biggest fear was he's going to have sexual harassment charges on him from the kindergarten teacher or first grade teacher. You know. So I homeschooled him. So yeah, I homeschooled him. I homeschooled him kindergarten through first, and then I was having difficulty because I was using the schools program, and I was having difficulty keeping up with what he needed to do, and we were basically doing more social skills because I wanted to get him ready to go to school, and he had to be able to take direction from someone else because he's used to being in charge and controlling the environment, and you can't do that. You have to have a teacher to, lead the class. So I knew that wasn't going to work. So we worked with flexibility the whole time. And I used the Sunrise program and kind of built in homeschooling along with that. So it's so funny. He remembers, he was telling me the other day, we were talking about it. And he goes, yeah, you were like, okay, let's get in the plane and we're going to go on a safari or wherever we were going to go, Africa or something. And he's like, that's my bed. And I'm like, no, it's a plane. Let's get in the plane.
No, Mom, that's my car bed.
Yeah, he's like, no, that's my car bed. It was like a Tyke's car. And I'm like, no, come on, we're going to go. No, that's my plane. That's my bed, Mom. So I had to work on flexibility with him. But we had fun. Okay. I want to tell you some stories. Oh, before I get there. Okay. So at age 10, we took him to the neuroscience center in Children's Hospital up in Cleveland. Was it Akron? Akron. And he was evaluated. And we needed him evaluated because I wanted to put him in a school that was for kids on the spectrum because I was having such a difficult time with public school and it was just not working. Bullying and teachers and the education system, it wasn't working. So I wanted to put him in this other school. So we needed to have him evaluated. So we took him up there. And just so you guys have an idea where he was at 10, his nonverbal IQ was 76. His verbal IQ was 126. So a 50-point gap. The doctor said they had never seen a gap like that. They said maybe in the teens they had never seen a 50-point gap in verbal versus nonverbal IQ. And so obviously, even if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can imagine that there was a big disconnect there and difficulties with him in communication in general. So that was a big deal. They said that was significant. It's a word they use. It was significant. So he lacked humor. I'm going to tell the Thanksgiving story. Okay, he lacked humor. Everything was literal. Everything was literal. We went to Thanksgiving one year. I think he was maybe 5, maybe something like that. It's 5, 6, something like that. Went to family Thanksgiving, and I told all the cousins were there. And there's this one particular cousin that is the clown. He plays with all the kids, and he's the fun one, okay? And I said, Zane, you cannot joke with Ian. You cannot joke with Ian. Don't do it. Okay, I won't do it. I don't know, 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, Ian is screaming like he was set on fire. He's hysterical. And I run over and I'm like, Zane, what did you do? And he's like, I didn't do anything. I said, what did you say? I didn't say anything. Just tell me. Just tell me what you said. I told him if he ate that candy, the candy he was eating, I told him he'd turn into a girl. Zane, I told you you can't play with him. You can't joke around. No, I scooped him up, took him in the other room, calmed him down. But we ended up leaving her a little early that Thanksgiving. You can't turn into a girl from eating candy. Now Zane, Zane is an adult now. He's married, he has children of his own, and he works with autistic children. So I would say Ian has a little bit to do with it. Can't believe he went that way because I totally laid into him.
I feel sorry for him.
He's great. He's fine. Okay, so Ian had some other symptoms outside of autism. He wasn't like textbook autistic. There were a lot of other things playing into there. He had some sensory issues. Sound was a big problem for him. He's like super hearing. Super hearing. I had some therapists, 2 different therapists in the same year, tell me that they thought he couldn't hear. And I was like, what? He can hear. And I was like, but I have 2 different therapists who don't talk to each other telling me the same thing. Better go get him tested. So we took him to get tested, and the audiologist, she was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe he can hear this. Like, he can hear this. And Rick teases him all the time. Can I say? He says he could hear a fart from a mouse a mile away. You cannot whisper around Ian. He will hear you. You can't do it. So sound, if we would sing or sing happy birthday was like a no. You don't sing happy birthday, because he would scream and he'd grab his ears and he'd yell, and I'd have to scoop him up and run him out of the room, and we eventually figured out you don't sing that at his birthday. No, that's not true. That's not true. So his sound was an issue. And in school it was an issue, in public school, because when the bell would ring, it was too much for him. They would have him leave. One of the accommodations they did make at public school, which was nice, is they had him leave the room early so that he could get his books before the bell rings and before the hallway got jammed up with all that chaos with the kids. But the bells were a big problem. Sound in general was a big problem. Light was an issue. And I think light was an issue because his eyes were always dilated. If you've ever gone to the eye doctor and you've had your eyes dilated and you walk outside, you cannot see, you're like, ah! So he was like that all the time. His eyes were dilated all the time. Why were his eyes dilated all the time? I was like, oh, he's got beautiful eyes. I never even thought anything of it. And the reason his eyes were dilated all the time is because he was in fight or flight mode. He was being pumped with adrenaline, because the moment you touched his skin, he would jump off. We actually had him tested with brain balance. They did a pulse and a blood pressure test, and they had him sitting there for a while, so he was relaxed, and someone came up and touched him, and it spiked up and his eye dilated. So a lot of his childhood, younger childhood, his eyes were dilated, like a lot. way more than normal. And that's indicative that he's in fight or flight. Well, you're gonna be hyper when you got adrenaline going through you. So they were like, oh, maybe he's ADHD. And not sure I think that's true. I think he just has a lot of adrenaline. And maybe he's, related to me. Tags were an issue. Tags. Fabrics, certain fabrics were an issue. So touch, sensory were issues for him. We would go places to kind of like, at times of days where it wasn't real busy. Like we tried to keep the volume down and the traffic down. And so I went to, I needed some foundation, I needed some makeup. And I was like, let's stop at the mall. It's almost ready to close, like 20 minutes. Everyone's leaving, let's go. So Rick and Ian and I, was just 3 of us. We went. I'm like, okay, Rick, keep an eye on him. I'm gonna go get to the makeup counter, I'm gonna get some things, we'll go. And I'm talking to the lady. And I'm trying to pick out my colors, and I'm taking little, I didn't know exactly what I wanted. I had to see it all. And then all of a sudden, I see Rick coming down the aisle. And he's holding Ian here, and he's got all Ian's clothes in this hand. And he is walking with this look on his face. And I turned to the lady, and I'm like, okay, we got to hurry this up. I'll take this, this, and this.
This was not last week, by the way.
Oh, no.
This was several years ago.
Yeah, he was carrying him like this. So, yeah, Ian didn't like tags and fabrics, and he just, if you turned your head for a second, you have no idea what he'd do, where he'd go. At this moment, he just, got naked and went running through the mall. So he had tantrums. I just want to touch on the tantrums because I think his are a little strange. I thought his were a little strange. And I've never heard this before from